When did humans begin agriculture? 10,000 years ago. When did they start chopping down forests and grazing goats and other animals? 10,000 years ago. And if we do that to the rest of the earth, and we could do it much more quickly now, like we're doing it in the Amazon, but we could do it much more quickly now. And if the whole world becomes desert, it's going to be a little hard to live.
Welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast, the show where we help you optimize your health, fitness, and mindset on a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. My name is Maxime. I am a former triathlete, powerlifter, bodybuilder, and basketball player, and I've been vegan for over 9 years. I'm also the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, which has helped over 500 vegans from 20 different countries to completely transform their bodies and their health. I'm excited for you to hear today's episode. Let's get into the show. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Glen. Glen is a novelist, a playwright, author, and co-author of several books, one of them being Food is Climate and America Goes Vegan. Glen, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Maxime?
Good. Excited to have you on the podcast.
Glad to be here.
Beautiful. So let's talk about, there's two books specifically that you wrote that I'd like to dive into. One of them is Food is Climate, and then your newest one is America Goes Vegan. So which one would you like to start with?
Oh, well, let's do it in order. Let's talk about Food is Climate first.
Perfect. All right. So the whole book is about, obviously, environment. Like I mentioned to you before we started recording, a lot of the guests that I've had on have been about health or animal cruelty. So it's the first time we're going to be talking about environment. So what, for the people that potentially have never heard of you before, never heard of the book, what can they expect when they get the book?
Well, Food is Climate is a short book. It's only something like 65 pages of text, followed by vegan, whole food, no oil, sugar-free, gluten-free recipes. But the text tries to make the case that the leading cause of climate change is, in fact, animal agriculture. We always hear about how, it's the burning of fossil fuels. Well, the burning of fossil fuels is a factor. It is the second leading cause of climate change. But the leading cause by far is animal agriculture. And you come to that conclusion when you do honest accounting. You have to look at all the land that's devoted to animal agriculture. That is 40% of the non-ice land surface of the earth is kind of fenced off and left for cows and sheep and goats to graze. 40% of the earth. Well, imagine if we didn't do that. Imagine if we didn't foolishly eat animals and we rewilded that land. The answer is that enough forests would grow back and enough vegetation would grow back that we would sequester enough carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere that we would return to the pre-industrial age levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We would return to like 1750 in terms of how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. And
That's crazy.
That is the only way to solve the crisis. There is no other way mathematically. For 30 years, we've heard about nothing but fossil fuels, and we're burning more fossil fuels now than we were 30 years ago. But even if tomorrow, let's indulge a fantasy, tomorrow, there's no more burning of fossil fuels. All the cars and trucks on the road are electric. All the electricity is clean electricity generated by solar and wind and hydroelectric power. We're cooking only with electric, clean electric, not with gas. We're heating and cooling our homes somehow without ever burning any fossil fuels. No more fossil fuels tomorrow. The question is, would the planet stop heating? And the answer is no. Because it's a cumulative problem. We're accumulating carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and you would still have 1.5 billion cows belching methane, which is 120 times as powerful a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide. You would still have deforestation, which
Yeah.
almost always happens to accommodate animal agriculture. And you would still have the destruction of the oceans and limiting its ability to serve as a carbon sink. And the oceans are being destroyed by industrial fishing, which in my mind is just another facet of animal agriculture. So you can't solve the problem with solar panels and light bulbs that are clean energy. So there is no solution to this other than ending animal agriculture or getting as close to it as we possibly can. And once you end animal agriculture and you let the oceans heal and you let the land heal, then you could pull down so much carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere that the crisis ends.
Yeah. So I was reading on your website. You say it's the grazing of the animals that sabotages some of the land because the earth is getting exposed and it's drying up. It's not growing anymore. So
Right.
is it the amount? Because obviously they are mass producing animals at this point, right? Inseminating cows to have
Right.
babies and all that stuff. So, they're like mass producing animals to a certain extent. So is it the large quantity of animals that's on the planet that they're just kind of like forcing and that's why they need more land? Or is it the combination with the grazing and having to take all that land?
Yeah, it's animals that were never meant to be so dominant on the earth,
Mm-hmm.
goats and sheep and cows. In fact, cows aren't even a natural animal. We bred them from oxen, but we have made them, great conquerors of the earth. There are 1.5 billion cows. There's far more cow biomass than any other animal. And look at this image, which I have on the cover of my book, Food is Climate. You see the deserts that go from the Sahara Desert across Africa to the deserts of the Middle East, to the Thar Desert in northern India, to the
Mm-hmm.
Gobi Desert in China. Now, this is a satellite image, and we've all seen images like this before, so you're not shocked to see it. You know that there are deserts in that part of the world.
Yeah.
But think about it. Why was the earth created with deserts right in that area? How did that happen? Well, when did humans begin agriculture? 10,000 years ago. When did they start chopping down forests and grazing goats and other animals? 10,000 years ago. And in 10,000 years, humans did this. Now, some people may object. There are other factors involved in the creation of the Sahara, the wobble of the Earth's axis, and so forth. I'm not disputing there could be other factors. But certainly one of the aggravating factors was man-made. It was, or human-made. It was the grazing of animals across that part of the world where civilization began. And if we do that to the rest of the earth, and we could do it much more quickly now, like we're doing it in the Amazon, that took 10,000 years.
Yeah.
But we could do it much more quickly now. And if the whole world becomes desert, it's going to be a little hard to live.
Yeah. It's going to be a little hard to eat.
Yeah.
So what are actionable things that people can do that are listening to this episode? Because obviously we see the bigger picture that you painted, but what are things that people can do in their day-to-day lives?
Well, the most important thing is that everybody has to go plant-based, on a healthy, low-fat, vegan diet. And so if everybody does that, then animal agriculture, especially in the United States, will begin to fold. They'll begin to
Yeah.
fold their tent. Now, the other thing you can do is get other people to go plant-based. I don't think there's much hope at this point for any political solutions. I don't think Congress is about to pass a law to create a tax on slaughterhouses or to do any number of other things that I might approve of. But believe me, I'm in the minority here. And, it's just not going to become law. If I ran
Yeah.
for president, I would lose overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
So you can't look to for political solutions to this now. It has to be a grassroots thing. More and more people have to go plant-based, stop creating demand for animal products. And then, that whole industry is being held up by federal tax subsidies anyway. So that's one thing that we could try to pressure the politicians to do is to stop subsidizing animal agriculture. Unfortunately, that's the one thing the Republicans and the Democrats agree upon. They want to keep subsidizing the foods that are killing us.
Yeah.
But if we can stop subsidizing animal agriculture, that industry will begin to disappear. And we just have to stop buying their products.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what got you to do this type of work and write these types of books? Like what got you here, Glenn?
Well, okay. The whole story begins when I was 17 and I became
So
a
like 10
vegetarian.
years ago.
10, 15 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I became a vegetarian at 17 because for health reasons, not that there was anything wrong with my health, but my mother, who was maybe just 10 pounds overweight, not very overweight, but she would walk up 6 steps and she would start to get angina pains. And so she had a heart condition. Her two brothers died of heart attacks when I was 16.
Mm.
Now, in addition to eating meat, they also smoked cigarettes. So they were setting themselves up for it. But still, they had high cholesterol and heart disease runs in the family. My grandparents, I never knew. They were dead before I was born. And I didn't want to. And on my father's side of the family, none of the men seemed to live past their 50s. So, I didn't want to be middle aged at 25.
Yeah.
And so I just instinctively became a vegetarian. Now, I don't know exactly how I knew that eating meat causes heart disease. I don't remember reading any books about it. I remember hearing the comedian Dick Gregory talking about it. But I think people generally knew, even back then, even 10 or 15 years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah.
I think people knew that eating meat causes heart disease. So I stopped eating meat, but I had an obese aunt and uncle. They must have been around 300 pounds, and they were very concerned about me. They said, "Where are you going to get your protein?" I hadn't thought about it, and I just took a wild
Dude.
guess and I said, "From cheese." And so, very stupidly, for the next 19 years, I had no animal products except for cheese. I didn't have eggs. I didn't have any kind of meat or fish or fowl, but I had cheese. And then I was in my 30s and I started to feel pains around my heart. And
Mm.
I thought, man, the world is unfair to me. I'm a vegetarian and I'm still getting pains around my heart. Boy, I have terrible genes. And then I thought, well, yeah, but I've been eating cheese. What is cheese? It's saturated fat and cholesterol. So I'm not eating meat because of the saturated fat and cholesterol, but I'm eating cheese. So, and they both, of course, have animal protein, which is bad for you.
Hmm.
So I gave up the cheese and I never had a heart pain again. I never went to the doctor. I just gave up cheese. And I've been fine ever since.
Yeah. And so that's what led you to step into the environmental
So,
piece.
that's what led me to be a vegan. Then, as a vegan, I got introduced in Hollywood to my friend Howard Lyman, who was a fourth generation cattle rancher turned vegan and animal rights activist. Um, it's a little before your time, Maxim, but in 1996, it was that Howard was on Oprah's show and he talked about mad cow disease. And Oprah said, "That's it. I'm not going to eat another hamburger." And she got sued by some lunatic cattle ranchers. And they sued her and Howard together. I worked with Howard on his book, Mad Cowboy, on our book, Mad Cowboy. And that became my first book. And in writing that book, until then I had been a vegetarian, then a vegan for health reasons. But I
Yeah.
learned from Howard how destructive it was to the land to conduct
Hmm.
animal agriculture, how he had poisoned the land in Montana where he had what had originally been an organic farm, and he turned it into a modern feedlot operation. And I began to see that in order to protect the streams, the rivers, the waterways, the land, we have to end animal agriculture. That's what got me changed my approach. Until then, I had been a shy vegan. I didn't talk to other people. I wasn't interested in what other people ate. And now I am. And it isn't because I'm terribly interested in, what other people eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's that we only have one planet, and it's destroying the planet.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um, so I think like I was 3, by the way, when that episode came out with Oprah.
Okay.
But
I'm
I've
sure
heard
you were
I've heard
reading
of that
about it.
moment. But I've heard of that moment though. When I first transitioned to veganism, I did some research into some of
Yeah.
the stories that had come out, and I know there was like a big kind of like pivotal moment.
Yeah.
So for obviously I think you wrote around 11 books now and wrote and co-wrote
I think it may be 12. Yeah.
12 now. Okay, so 12 books. So all within kind of like a similar theme in them with the plant-based aspect.
Well, they're all encouraging people to go vegan or plant-based, however you want to say it. There are differences. One of the books is actually a novel called Off the Reservation, which is about a vegan congressman from Indiana who runs for president. So I've done it in a fiction context. I also have my books with Chef AJ.
I saw that.
Right. And Chef AJ wrote Unprocessed and The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss, so a weight loss book. And now she has the 10th anniversary edition of Unprocessed, which is more of a cookbook with pictures. And so I co-authored her books, and the new book is called America Goes Vegan, in which I try to make both the health and the environmental and the cultural case for why we need a transformation to a vegan world.
Well, let's dive into that. But before we go into America Goes Vegan, I want to ask you, what made you choose the word vegan over plant-based? Because right now online, there's a big dichotomy between the two of them.
Yeah, there's an organization. I think they call it We Did It .health, something like that.
Okay.
It's a nice organization where I think what they're trying to do is compile stories of people who improve their health by going plant-based or vegan, but you have to fill out a form first. And I go to fill out the form, and it gives me a choice. Am I a vegan or am I whole food plant-based? Well, I'm both, right? I mean, I'm not eating any animal food, so I'm vegan, but
Yeah.
I'm not eating vegan donuts. I'm eating fruits and vegetables, so I'm whole food plant-based. So, well, why do I have to choose? Right? I'm
Yeah.
both. So then the question is, well, which term should we use? And different people in the movement prefer different terms.
Yeah.
I think Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study, likes the term whole food plant-based. Dr. John McDougall likes the term starchivore. A starchivore, someone who fuels their body mainly with natural starches, like in potatoes and corn. And others use the term vegan. The important thing is that you're not eating animal products, which are unhealthy for you, and that you're eating whole foods. So I suppose if I had to call myself something, I'd call myself a whole food, low fat vegan. right? But I'm not afraid of the word vegan because that's what we need. We need a vegan transformation of the world. We need people to understand that animals are not our food, plants are our food. And we need to spurn this industry that's doing so much damage. So, we need to celebrate veganism, but it's not enough to just, not eat animals. That just tells you what you're not eating. So, in terms of health, you could be a vegan and having vegan donuts and vegan ice cream and coconut oil and all these unhealthy things that some people eat if they come to this movement just for the concern for the animals.
Yeah.
So, if you really want a vegan transformation of the world, you want to be a healthy vegan so that people will look at you and say, I want to be like him or her. You want to be a good model for health. Also, you want to live long enough to fight for the animals, right? If that's your one cause, animals, well, then live long enough to fight for them. Don't become a 300-pound vegan, and have vegan donuts and not care at all about your own health. We should all care
Yeah.
about our own health. So it's very important to me that, that people be whole food, low fat vegans, not imagine that they could, be healthy on vegan donuts and fake meats made with coconut oil.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people that want to lose weight that are vegan but are struggling with weight loss because they went vegan for the environment or for the animals. And for many years, they didn't care about their health. They cared more about the animal than their own health. So they would just be like, I'm just going to live off vegan pizza, vegan burgers, all that food. At least I'm vegan, I'm helping the animals. But you're right, there's a longevity aspect to like you want to be able to help them for a long time because if you're eating
Right.
processed food, whether it's vegan, even if it's vegan, you're still hurting your health
Right.
tremendously. And
And if you care so much about the animals, and that's very nice to care about the animals, are there any people in your life you might care about? You maybe have a spouse or a girlfriend or boyfriend or a parent or a child or close friends. Well, wouldn't you want to keep yourself healthy for them? Isn't there's nothing, I used to tell people that I became vegetarian originally for health reasons. And they would say, oh, so you just did it for selfish reasons. What in the world is selfish about trying to keep yourself healthy? If there are people you love, you're trying to keep yourself healthy for them too, right?
yeah,
So, there's nothing selfish about staying healthy and doing your best to stay healthy.
yeah, you because we recorded on your show, I think like a week or two ago. Um, love the name of your podcast, by the way, as well. So after we recorded, I saw a quote on Instagram, which
Yeah.
was for directed towards men and eating plant-based. And it said like men often say that they're willing to die for their family. But then they go like, but are you willing to change how you eat to be there long enough for your family?
Right.
And I thought that hit hard. That hit home
Exactly.
for I think for a lot of people. They're willing to do
Exactly.
everything besides stopping eating steak and chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is selfish to eat hamburgers and to
Absolutely.
eat chicken.
I'm with you.
That's selfishness.
I'm with you on that because, like we talked about before, like I was a caregiver to my ex going through a cancer journey, and I saw how much I can't even imagine the amount of pain she was in, but the amount of stress and hardship that I went through having to see someone that I love suffer.
Right.
If you become unhealthy, it is selfish to be unhealthy because then there's going to be a point in your life where your partner or your kids are forced to take care of you because you
Right.
didn't take care of yourself. So it's actually
Right.
selfish to eat shit food. It's not
Right.
selfish to eat healthy food.
Right. And we're all mortal and things happen and you could get bad luck or, this diet doesn't make you bulletproof, but
Puts the chances
it's
on your
within
side.
your control. It's within your control to increase your odds for longevity and health. And
Yeah.
so, if you eat your way into heart disease, that's that's something you have control over. So there's just no reason to do it.
Yeah. I use the analogy of a seatbelt. If you have a
Yeah.
seatbelt when you're getting a car accident, you're less likely to die versus if you don't have it. Veganism
Right.
is that seatbelt,
Right.
right? Greatly reduces the risk.
Right.
Let's dive into your latest book, America Goes Vegan.
All right.
What are some of the main highlights that you wanted people to get out of it when you wrote it?
Good question. I think one of the main ideas is that it's important not to be a shy vegan. It's important to try to promote a vegan transformation of the world. And it's patriotic to go vegan because the land in America is being destroyed by animal agriculture. We have these lagoons of cow manure.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we want our beautiful country to have lagoons of cow manure? Why do we want our fellow citizens who own property downwind of a pig farm not to be able to breathe?
Yeah, I lived on a farm. It smells terrible.
Yeah. This is our beautiful country and it's being destroyed by animal agriculture, you know? Um, and so the cover image, is
Yeah, New York. There you
Statue of
go.
Liberty holding broccoli. And, we need to realize that the patriotic thing to do is to go vegan. And we want our soldiers and our police, our firefighters to be on a healthy diet to protect us. And, and we want to spread the word that this is the healthiest diet and that therefore we should all be doing this and we should be protecting our country and the world with eating the right diet. And why turn over the planet to cows? That's just a preposterous thing to do. And then there are the oceans that are being destroyed by industrial fishing.
Yeah.
Can people not understand that there's not an infinite number of fish in the sea? We are extracting all life from the sea. There's this wonderful documentary, Seaspiracy,
I was just going to bring that
SEA,
up. I was just going to bring that up. Yeah, it's
Seaspiracy, in which I learned, I didn't know this, that when they capture dolphins in their mile wide nets, I guess people don't eat dolphin meat. I don't know if that's because it doesn't taste good or they're cute. I don't know, but people don't eat dolphins. So
Mhm.
when they capture the dolphins, you would think that they would have the decency to just let them live and throw them back in the ocean, but they don't. They don't do that. They first slice them up with knives, kill them, and then they throw them back into the ocean. And they do that because the dolphins are competing with them for the tuna. That
Mhm.
is how depraved this industry is. So, we need to just stop this industry. I know there are good people, I'm sure, who are involved in animal agriculture, good people who work in the fishing industry, and I feel sorry for them. And the governments should help them transition to doing something useful. And they shouldn't be just thrown out of work with no support.
I think it's a
But
money
these,
thing for a
what's
lot
that?
of the. I think it's a money. That's how they make their living, right? So I feel like
Yeah,
if they could make the same amount of money while doing something else, they would do it.
yeah,
I don't think none
yeah,
of them are that hardcore that they were like, if you were to remove my pay, I would still do it. I think none of
yeah.
them would do that.
So we need to transition people from being chicken, poultry farmers to being mushroom farmers, and from being fishermen to helping plants, helping support sea forests, or whatever we can do to help these people do something useful instead of destroying the world.
Yeah. There's that scene in Seaspiracy with, I believe it's with the orcas or the whales
Mm-hmm.
on when they're on the beach. I couldn't even look at that scene
Yeah.
because they're just slicing them up, and it's, ooh, yeah, couldn't do it. That's how I feel when I walk in the grocery store and there's the meat
Yeah.
section. I look at the ground. I can't look up and look at it.
And that section in the grocery store smells so bad. Isn't that a clue?
Yeah, yeah. It
It's not
smells bad,
food.
and they feel the need to put red light to make the meat look brighter. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's
And then
grossed out by it.
they paint the salmon, they color the salmon to make it look edible.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty nasty. So, how can we help America go vegan, or the world ultimately? What are like tangible steps that people can take to kind of like start their journey and get a little bit more educated about it? Because
All
I would
right.
say maybe 40-50% of people listening are vegetarians, and then 50% are vegan.
All
So
right. Well,
got the
I
perfect
certainly
split,
wouldn't object if you buy my book, read it, and give it to a friend. So there's that.
which we'll link in the bio for people to get it.
Okay. So that's America Goes Vegan is the latest. And before that, Food is Climate. And before that, Own Your Health. But again, take care of your own health. Get on a healthy, low fat vegan diet and convince others, convince your family, convince your friends, help make this a transformation. And it's got to be grassroots. The politicians will not do this for us.
Yeah. So the people are going to cause a revolution for everyone to go plant-based. And
Yeah.
I love what you mentioned earlier. If you are a 300-pound vegan, people won't necessarily listen to you or believe you. Uh, Ultimately, you're a walking billboard at all times, right? Even if you're not
Right.
vegan, you're a walking billboard. You're
Right.
a representation of the choices that you choose to publicly announce to people.
Right.
So if you like, I think that's been my most powerful tool to help people go vegan and transition is lead by example, which is why I did so many competitions and events because
Right.
like you did all that being vegan, maybe it's possible for me too. And then people are genuinely interested in asking you questions versus going to people and being like, you're a murderer. You have to, I think
Right.
there's places for both, but ultimately I found that the best transition tool is be a walking billboard, lead by example. And then
Mhm.
people are attracted to people that are genuine, that are achieving certain things in their life. And
Right.
then they're more receptive to the
Right.
information.
Right. Well, I'm not a bodybuilder like you are, and an athlete, a fitness champion. But I'll say this: I'm older than you are. I'm a generation older, at least. And in my 60s now, I've never had to take a pharmaceutical drug in my life, other than an antibiotic on a few occasions, like when I had, oral surgery or something.
Yeah.
And
That's leading by example though, because that's a good, call it a good flex, right? It'd be like,
yeah,
hey, I'm 60 plus. I've never had to do any of that.
right,
When everyone else is on medication and,
right.
like my grandfather passed away, he was 63,
There you
still
go.
very young.
I'm
Yeah.
older than your grandfather.
Yeah.
And so uh, I try to be an example that way. I'm also the same weight that I was in high school and college, right? And while I'm not a fitness guy, I'll tell you this: I was able to do 20 push-ups when I was 12 years old, and I was able to do 20 push-ups in my 20s and 30s and 40s. I still do 20 push-ups. I do 20, I get tired. But
Nice.
I'm still at that same level. It's not a world-class athlete level, but
But it's impressive.
I'm still at that same modest level of being somewhat fit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, as you get older, it gets more
yeah,
impressive too, right? Because people's
yeah.
health, I can't remember what was a documentary. It was at the Plantrition Project, which is a
Mm-hmm.
plant-based doctor conference that happened a few weeks ago.
Right.
They were talking about how people's health from birth to about like 50-ish years old, everyone
Mm-hmm.
is pretty much in the same spot. They could group people, but there was something post 50, 60 years old that it went in two different directions. Like people were either super healthy or super sick. No one really stayed in the middle. It was like a
Right.
defining moment as to how you're
Right.
going to choose to live the rest of your life. So
Right.
you're up there, staying healthy,
Yeah.
doing your push-ups.
Let me tell you a story that I think shows something about the degree of my health and the benefits of this diet. One thing that the whole food plant based diet will not protect you from is a hernia.
Yeah.
I guess you're just kind of genetically disposed to it or predisposed to it or whatever it is. But last year, about a year and a few months ago, I sneezed. And the whole food plant based diet does not prevent sneezing. I sneezed and I said, ow. And then I looked in my groin and I had a hernia. And it kind of looks like half of a tennis ball sticking out of your body. It's not very
I had
attractive.
one when I was younger. I got operated for it, so
Okay.
I know the
Yeah.
pain.
So I said to my wife, "Oh, it's not too serious. It's a hernia. They have it's a minor operation, I'm sure. I'll look into it. Should be nothing." Well, it is a minor operation. It's not a terribly serious operation. There are millions of these operations all the time, but it's fairly complex because the way they're often done now is laparoscopic surgery, where they blow up your belly with carbon dioxide gas, and then they place a synthetic plastic mesh in you to hold the repair in place. And I'm
Mm,
not saying there's anything wrong with that. Millions of people get it. I'm sure most of them are fine. I didn't want it. I
mhm.
didn't want that synthetic mesh in my body.
Yeah.
And you will find online some people who say, I got that mesh and it ruined my life. So I didn't want it. And I also didn't want it because what would happen if I got that synthetic mesh and 10 years from now or 15 years from now, I got, let's say, rheumatoid arthritis? What would be my first thought? Oh, it's that damn mesh. I knew I shouldn't have gotten that. I'd start looking for, are there class action lawsuits? Because, do other people have this problem? I just didn't want to think about
Yeah.
it. So I consulted Dr. Google, and Dr. Google told me that there are doctors out there who perform hernia repairs the old fashioned way. It's called open surgery instead of laparoscopic. They just cut you open in your groin, where the problem is. And
Hmm.
they use certain techniques, and I couldn't explain what they are. One is called the Schuldeis method, one is called the Desarda method, that to repair the hernia without using any synthetic mesh. And I found a doctor in Sarasota, Florida, where I went to college, who did it, who was willing to do it that way. He also uses mesh, but I told him I didn't want it. He said, fine. And so my wife and I drove to Sarasota for the operation. And I had consulted with his staff about what should I take for a painkiller. So the man's going to be cutting me open in my groin, doing surgery. I'm probably going to have some pain. And they told me what to take. And I have trouble. I can't really swallow a pill, so I wasn't sure what to do. I got some I forget, some liquid uh, common pain reliever. I forget what it's called. Tylenol, liquid Tylenol. Um, and then I had the surgery. I woke up in the operating room and I said to the nurse, "Oh, I'm alive. That's good. Wait a minute. There's no pain. There's no pain." And she said, "Well, of course there's no pain. You're still under the effect of the anesthesia." I said, "Oh, all right." She said, "Wait till tomorrow." Well, tomorrow came and there was no pain. And the next day there was no pain. And I never had any pain. I
Oh,
never
good.
had it. I never had to take an aspirin. Nothing. Now he cut me open in my groin, repaired me, sewed me shut, and I never had any pain. And I could only tell you that pain is related to inflammation.
Yeah.
And there's no real inflammation in my body because the food I'm eating is human food. And when you eat foods that aren't human food, dairy, meat, refined
Processed
flours,
foods. Yeah.
yeah, processed foods, that's when you get inflammation. I've had my inflammation, the CRP test measured, it's close to zero. So I never had any pain. So that's what you could accomplish if you eat human food and only human food. You could reduce inflammation in your body, which is good in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, and speed up recovery. You made me think of James Wilkes from the Game Changers. Same thing
Uh-huh.
when he got surgery on both his knees, one plant-based to kind of speed up
Yeah.
the recovery. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much to it that people don't think that it would help with. So I'm curious to know, so just from your experience, because you've been vegan for a while now, at least 10, 15 years.
Oh, 30 years.
30 years. Okay. Yeah. So you've been vegan for 30 years. So what have been some of your biggest takeaways that you could share with people that are considering wanting to eat more plant-based, specifically whole food plant-based?
My major point is it's not hard if you can, if you have some time you can spend preparing your own food. There's nothing, if can have some time every day that you can prepare food in the kitchen, or if you don't have that much sometime every day, then at least sometime over the weekend where you can batch cook and prepare food for during the week. But it's not hard to prepare the food that you need to to have this kind of diet. To prepare rice, to either cook beans from scratch or get cans of beans and open up a can of beans and rinse it and warm up beans, cook lentils, cook oatmeal, put a tempeh, slice of tempeh in the toaster oven,
Mm-hmm.
make salads, prepare some healthy raw foods like salads, the avocado, fruit. It's the food isn't hard. There's nothing really difficult about. I mean, you can follow recipes and make gourmet vegan meals, but baking a potato, boiling a potato, steaming a potato, excuse me, none of this is hard. The hard part is other people. The
Yeah.
hard part is society. The hard part is dealing with Aunt Rosie at Thanksgiving.
It says,
The
can you
hard,
have this? It only has eggs in it. No, I can't
yeah,
have eggs.
yeah, yeah. The hard part is being at work with your colleagues and they order the pepperoni pizza.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is dealing with the flack you may get from other people, especially if you're sensitive. Um, what if your
Yeah.
spouse doesn't want to go vegan with you?
Yeah.
So other people are the problem. The food isn't the problem. The food is easy to do. It's
Yeah.
not like you have to be, I'm not a gourmet cook. You don't have to be a gourmet cook to cook this way. You can fry your vegetables in water, and that's a lot healthier than oil. You can put your vegetables in a steamer. You could make pasta. I mean, there are all kinds of foods that are not hard to make. The food isn't hard. The people and the restaurants, the society, that's the thing that other people find very difficult to overcome.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely develop a thicker skin being vegan, especially
Yeah.
if you choose to stick to it for a long term. I just thought about that for the food aspect for people that are struggling. I announced this a few podcasts ago, but have you heard of the company called Whole Harvest?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
it's
know much about them, but the name sounds familiar.
yeah,
So
so I had
they
the
they
opportunity.
make packaged foods, packaged meals.
Yeah, but it's the at least it's the only company I've ever found across the United States that does whole food, plant-based, oil-free, low-fat, and SOS-free meals made
Mm-hmm.
fresh that they deliver to your house everywhere in the United
Okay.
States. It's pretty
Yeah.
great. I'm a
Yeah.
lazy cook. I'm not a master chef either. So
Right.
we partnered up with them for our members, but I order some of their meals and
Yeah.
honestly, they're able to make it taste better than I would make it taste.
Uh-huh.
But it's very simple versus
Right.
having to kind of like cook everything. So just an option for
Right.
people listening. I'll
Yes.
put the link below so people can kind of check it out. I'm also going to put the link below for your two books, ultimately your website as well, and your podcast too,
Okay.
so people can go and listen to the podcast episodes we did together.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Beautiful. You're welcome. Well, Glenn, I would say a massive thank you for taking the time to jump on the podcast, share your knowledge, share your wisdom. And I honestly believe that it helped people, have a better understanding of the impact that it's having for them to eat more plant-based and what happens if they don't transition. Because you're right, from an environmental standpoint, which I don't think a lot of people talk enough about, which is why I was really happy to have you on the show. There's such a huge impact that is disregarded by the majority of the world. And, we're going to be hopefully on this planet for a long time, and we want it to stay healthy.
Right.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you very much for listening to the episode. Be sure to like it. I know you can't like it on podcasts. If you're on YouTube, like it, share it, leave a comment, leave a review, and we'll see all you guys in the next episode. Bye.